Okay, so what if you had a set of verbal weapons that were literally designed to win any relationship argument? It's a pretty provocative claim, right? But that's exactly what this communication framework we're breaking down today is all about. And we're not just talking about simple conversation tips here. The source actually calls them nuclear code phrases, meant to completely shift the power dynamic. Let's see what that's all about.
You know that feeling, right? You're stuck in an argument, it's just going in circles, and you feel totally powerless. Well, the framework we're exploring today claims it has the antidote for that exact moment.
And here's the core analogy the source uses, which is honestly pretty fascinating. It compares that feeling of being trapped in relationship drama to the misery of waiting in line at the DMV. You just accept it. The argument is that most men are basically conditioned to just endure this frustration, thinking, well, I guess this is just normal.
So first, let's really get our heads around this idea of the relationship DMV. According to the source, this is the fundamental problem that these tactics are supposedly built to solve.
The source really defines this problem as a state of accepted powerlessness. It's this idea that men get caught up in these never-ending cycles of drama and are taught to believe they just have to kind of grit their teeth and put up with it.
And the solution it proposes? A set of what the source calls verbal weapons. The claim is that if you use these specific phrases, you can shatter that whole cycle of drama and totally shift the power dynamic. But how are they supposed to actually work?
All right, now we get into the first and you could say the most confrontational tactic in this playbook. It's called the ordinary weapon, and it's designed to go after a very, very specific psychological narrative.
So this whole tactic really hinges on what the source calls the star of the movie narrative. This is the idea that a woman sees herself as the one-of-a-kind protagonist in her own life story, and that she has this kind of sexual superpower that makes her exceptional and ultimately gives her control. And here you can see exactly how the tactic creates a direct clash. On one side, you have her internal story of being this unique star. But on the other side, the tactic introduces what the source calls the truth by calling her ordinary or predictable. The goal here is to launch a direct assault on that self-perception.
So what's the whole point of doing this? According to the source, the goal is to completely shatter that sexual superpower and just blow up her star of the movie story. The claim is that this destabilizes her entire frame of reality, and that's how the person using the tactic sees control of the whole interaction.
Okay, so that was the offensive move. Now, let's take a look at the defensive strategy in this framework. It's called the agreement method.
This method is designed for a very specific situation: how to respond to what the source calls insults or tests. You can almost think of it like a conversational judo move. It's meant to de-escalate and totally disarm a verbal attack.
The process sounds almost too simple. So, step 1, an insult or a challenge gets thrown your way. Step 2, instead of defending yourself, you just agree with the premise of it. Now, why would you do that? Well, the other person is expecting a fight. By agreeing, you just take all the fuel out of the fire. And the source controversially claims this will break her brain. Basically, it short-circuits the whole argument because you're just refusing to play the game.
So what's the ultimate promise with all this? The source claims that by mastering these tactics, you can put an end to those frustrating circular arguments, shut down these so-called tests, and finally reclaim what it defines as power and control in the relationship.
So there you have it, a whole framework of verbal weapons designed to dismantle arguments and shift power. And you can see the tension here, can't you? On one hand, it's presented as a tool to escape frustrating conversations. But on the other hand, the tactics rely on psychological destabilization, which leaves us with a really critical question. Is this an advanced communication strategy, or is it just a playbook for manipulation?